how we move forward in a constructive way. A few simple observations. There are no pressing security threats to Greenland, but we share real concern about Arctic security going forward. As the climate changes, as the sea ice retreats, as shipping routes change, there are legitimate reasons for us to explore ways to invest better in Arctic security broadly, both in the American Arctic and in our NATO partners and allies. Second is that we seek to find a way forward through this moment that reinforces the 225-year-old partnership and alliance between the people of the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States. And we return to Washington after this trip with a renewed passion for finding ways that we can engage that are respectful and constructive. It was made very clear to us, as it has been repeatedly over the years, that if the United States seeks to invest in partnership respectfully with the people of Greenland in accessing possibly newly available critical minerals or rare earths, that would be welcome, and that in partnership with the Kingdom of Denmark, if we wish to increase our investments in Arctic security, that would be welcome. But the challenge here is for that to be done in a way that is deeply respectful of Danish sovereignty and of our NATO alliance. So with that, I think we're happy to take questions, and we appreciate everyone who's been a part of this. I'm going to call on Trina first, if I might, just to make sure that Greenlandic press gets a question asked and answered.
Thank you
and
so
please,
much.
I encourage members of this delegation, if you've got an answer that you think we have to give that I've missed, please jump in.
Thank you so much, Senator Kuhn. I would like to ask what can Greenland and the Greenlanders do to help this process moving forward? What can you say to them that they can, that they can help with?
First, I just hope that you will reinforce that this is a respectful and constructive delegation that came more to listen than to talk. And speaking for myself, and I suspect it's true across all of us except Senator Murkowski, I learned a great deal about Greenland that I did not previously know. More than anything, that it is a remote and difficult place to live, and that the population of Greenland has managed to carve out of an exceptionally difficult environment, a culture and an approach to living that is worthy of deep respect, and that our assets there are relatively limited, and that our partnership with the Greenlandic peoples is critical to our having a better informed understanding of what the real circumstances are in Greenland and what the possibilities are for respectful partnership.
If I may
Please.
just add to that, there have been, I think, significant efforts between not only the native people in Alaska, but many Alaska business interests that have formed partnerships and relationships with the people of Greenland, focused on areas of common interest. We understand what it means when small communities are visited by a large cruise ship where the population of the tourists on the cruise ship is 3 times more than the population of your community, and how you still maintain the identity of a community when you have those visitors come in. So we've been sharing some best practices. Our fishermen have been talking to Greenlandic fishermen about how we deal with changes in ocean and the environment. We've been talking about different governance structures. I would encourage the Greenlandic people, keep those avenues of dialogue and partnership open. Oftentimes, when our capitals are in conflict, when the words are perhaps hard to translate at that level, it is at the sub-regional level that we are able to have that level of civility, of optimism, and forward movement that is positive. So I would offer that to the people of Greenland. The second thing that I would suggest is, just as Senator Coons has shared, there is so much that this delegation has learned about not only Greenland, the island, the territory, but about the Greenlandic people. And yesterday when we met with the parliamentarians, one of the things that was so moving was when a young parliamentarian shared the concept of ownership as an indigenous person of Greenland, understands it. It is not the same concept that most people in Western society may relate to. So understanding the culture, the people, and only the Greenlandic people can do that. Only they can really share their stories, their lifestyle, and what it means to be part of a very harsh environment in challenging conditions, but that's who you are. And so to suggest that you might want to go move to an easier place doesn't make sense. So share those stories with not only the United States, but share them with the world, because the eyes of the world are on Greenland and Greenlanders. Let's not forget the people.
Thank you, Lisa. My first trip to the Arctic was with Senator Murkowski, and you can see why. And there was a very earnest request from the Greenlandic parliamentarians for dialogue and for continued dialogue, which I very much hope Senator Murkowski and others among us will continue to facilitate. Elizabeth, did you have a question?
Yeah, Elizabeth Miller from the New York Times. As you know, Donald Trump has said that he wants to own or take over Greenland because, quote, that's what I feel is psychologically needed for success. I mean, right now, you're a part of a delegation that is engaging in traditional diplomacy, reassuring an ally. You are doing what has traditionally been done for years and years in a crisis like this. But given that Donald Trump seems to have a psychological need for Greenland, which he says, how can you counter that with traditional methods, especially when so far publicly there have been minimal Republicans opposing this?
Well, Elizabeth, thank you for the question. I can't speak to President Trump's psychological needs. That's really not my goal here. Your question, though, is repeating something he has said. I'll say this. One of the things that's been made clear to us is that the people of Denmark are very anxious, are quite concerned, and the people of Greenland even more so, and that this current tone and tempo of statements about acquisition is not constructive. I think I speak for every senator and House member here in that we deeply value NATO, and that this 80-year-old alliance, this partnership, has been absolutely critical to the United States' security and prosperity and success. I was at the NATO summit, as was Senator Shaheen, Senator Tillis, and others. This was a remarkably successful NATO summit last year at The Hague. NATO has dramatically stepped forward. Denmark, the Kingdom of Denmark, is now spending 3.2% of its GDP on security. NATO, in some ways, should be celebrated and embraced as being stronger than ever. Greenland is a part of Denmark. Denmark is our NATO ally. That should be the end of this discussion, in my view, because I think to do or say anything that puts at risk our trustworthiness as an ally is fundamentally strategically dangerous for the United States. So in recent conversations with ambassadors from other countries, from the Indo-Pacific, from throughout the world, if we do or say things as a nation, and I'm speaking as a senator, if I do or say something that causes a close and trusted NATO ally, there is almost no better ally to the United States than Denmark. If we do things that cause Danes to question whether we can be counted on as a NATO ally, why would any other country seek to be our ally or believe in our representations? In terms of my psychological needs, knowing that the United States is a respected and trusted ally and partner around the world is a core part of what, speaking for myself, I'm trying to accomplish. And, I'll let others in the delegation disagree if you do, but I think a lot of our security as a nation has rested on our being trustworthy. We're the Article I branch. We are having active conversations amongst ourselves about what is the wisest course of action. If nothing else, I think de-escalating the level, tone, and frequency of rhetoric around this and injecting some reality about what are the actual circumstances of the security threats. There are no current security threats to Greenland. how can we best navigate Arctic security together with NATO, and how can we best navigate access to newly emergent resources around the world together. Those are conversations that we intend to continue when we get back to Washington. So,
But I will speak as the sole Republican that's standing here at this moment, because you have suggested that this is a partisan issue. Support for our friends and allies, whether they be the Kingdom of Denmark or others, should not be a partisan issue. And I think it's going to be important for us as members, not as Democrats or as Republicans, but for us as members of Congress who have been here at this moment in time, to return to Washington to speak to all of our colleagues and those in the administration about what we have heard, what we have shared, so that there is, again, greater understanding. We cannot allow this to become a partisan matter. We just simply cannot. And I think the way that we keep it from being partisan is by full education, dismissing some of the assumptions that some may have, and then acting together. So you're not seeing a lot of Republicans here today. And I'm not going to give you the details of other members' schedules, but Senator Coons, quite honestly, you put this trip together pretty quickly.
very quickly.
This is a period where the House members all have to go back to work this next week. And so we doubled the size of the Codel literally overnight. And I don't think that the absence of Republicans is because they don't care about this issue or they have already decided what side of the fence that they may be. So I would not take that as an indicator of support or lack of support. But we do have our work to do when it comes to education.
Thank you.